Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Getting Started with Tradestation series. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for Tradestation Securities. And it's always a pleasure to talk about Tradestation technology, show you some tips and tricks here and there so that you can use the platforms a little bit more efficiently. Let's call it that way. Today, we're going to highlight the Tradestation desktop. It's Tradestation's flagship product. And we're going to go over some basic functionality on charting, trading, and scanning. So hopefully you'll get something out of this class or walk away with something that you can use in your everyday trading. Before we get started, here's the usual disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone. Past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. We all need to be aware of the risks that are involved in online trading. For additional details, you can go to the link right there on the PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go ahead and switch to my TradeStation platform, and let's give you a tour of what you see when you first log on to the platform. This is the platform, by the way, that you have to download and install on your computer. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but TradeStation provides you three different platforms on which to trade. There's one, which is the desktop. You have access to our web trading platform, which you access on a browser. And then you have the mobile app, which you access on the phone. We do classes on each one. Today is going to be on the desktop, but I wanted to make it clear to everyone that if you're just getting started with TradeStation and you weren't aware of this, we provide you three different platforms on which to submit trades and manage your positions and your orders. But let's talk about the TradeStation desktop. I already have it installed on my computer. I am connected to a trading simulator. One of the nice things about TradeStation is that when you have an account, you can access a trading simulator to test functionality, to learn, the TradeStation platform without having to risk your capital. If you want to test an advanced order type, let's say that you want to do an OCO or an OSO, there's no need for you to use a real order for that. You can do the simulator and see how it functions before you, do it on the real account. Today, we're going to talk about OCOs very briefly when we go towards the end of the class and talk about trading, but I think it's one of the nicest features that there are in terms of order placement, because you can do what's called an all-inclusive trade. You have an entry with the exits attached. So it's very, very nicely done. When you log into the TradeStation desktop for the first time, you see this workspace titled TradeStation Today. It's just a workspace we set up for you so that you can access timely information. For example, here on the left-hand side, you have a collection of videos that we are recently producing on the TradeStation desktop, and you can watch those videos on any application that is available on the platform. Right here at the bottom, what you see these boxes, these are recent and recommended workspaces. Yes, TradeStation comes pre-packaged with workspaces that you can use out of the box. In my classes and presentations, I usually start workspaces from scratch. And that way it shows you, how you can build your workspace to your liking. However, if you need a starting point, if you want to have or get some ideas on how to set up workspaces, you can certainly look at those workspaces as examples. You can even, modify those workspaces while you're in them and save them as if they were your own, which is sometimes a benefit for some clients. Right here in the middle, we have our social feed. It usually updates every time we post something on Twitter. Right now, it's kind of broken, so it's not updating in real time. So if you're following TradeStation on Twitter, you would get more recent updates than looking at the ones here. If you notice, this hasn't been updated for 100 and something days. We're working with engineering to fix this. But if you want to know what's happening on the social side of TradeStation, make sure you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, whatever your preferred social platform is. Over here on the right-hand side, we also have a quick summary of upcoming events. You also find the events on tradestation.com if you go to learn and events. But if you're on the platform and you want to see what's going on, you can go in here and see all the different upcoming events and register for those events right here from within the platform. At the bottom right, the what's new box. Sometimes I'm not sure if you've seen this, but updates to TradeStation are done automatically when you log on. If there's a fix or a new feature that has been added, your TradeStation will go into update mode for a few seconds or a minute or two, and it'll give you the most recent version. If you want to know what that newest version has, then you can go to what's new, and it does tell you everything that was fixed, everything that was added, and if there's new things added to the platform. Okay. But if you're going to get started with TradeStation, most likely you want to create your own setups. So I'm going to click on this plus at the very bottom left of my TradeStation platform to create a new workspace. You can see that it's untitled. So this is brand new. I would have to right click and make sure that I save the work. Of course, I have nothing in it yet, but as you open up applications and you organize your work, when I say work, I'm talking about charting. And if you have a watch list, you probably want to save that workspace. So make sure that you right click on any untitled workspace once you have it all, filled up, and then save the workspace. That way, TradeStation will save everything you put inside the workspace, will save it to your computer. And next time you log into TradeStation, you'll have everything you were working on. Okay, let me start here with the chart. So I just go to apps and click on chart analysis. I kind of skipped that part. Apps will give you access to all the different applications you can open up in TradeStation. You can see that we have a dozen different applications that you can choose. Chart analysis is one of them. So I'm going to grab this chart and resize it by grabbing it by one of the corners and putting it right here on my screen. So I'm getting a question here on the chat. In reference to the updates, are the updates automatic and included? Yes, they are. So everyone should be on the exact same version of TradeStation unless when you went to the download page, you were instructed to download an older version of TradeStation, because we do have, TradeStation 9.5 still available for download. But you would have to, on the download page, you would have to be mindful of that and select that older version. Most of you will be on this current version, and updates are automatic, so everyone is using the most recent version. And one thing to point out also is that, when we have new updates, we do a gradual release. So while we are updating TradeStation, there may be some users that are on a prior update, but that should take a few days to balance everyone out and make sure that everyone is on the exact same version. Okay, so this is a chart of AMD. You can see that you have a very convenient drop down allowing you to change the time frame. TradeStation chooses 5-minute bars as a default, but I'm going to switch this AMD chart to a daily chart. Okay, you can use the up arrow key and down arrow key on the keyboard to increase and decrease the bar spacing. So if you didn't know that, please press the up arrow key now and see how it affects the chart. It gives you a little bit more room between candles. But if your objective is to squeeze the bars so that you can see more historical data, down arrow key, just press it multiple times until it can go no longer. You'll get this kind of effect. On a daily chart here for AMD, I have 5 years of data. So it gets to a point that if I squeeze the chart too much, I'll have this empty space on the right-hand side, which doesn't get filled up automatically. I have to request data. By default, we give you 2 years of historical data on a daily chart, but I'm open to download as much as I can. And one of the ways that I like to request historical data is by just typing it in. You're going to notice that a lot of things that I do to charting are done through my keyboard. So yes, I have 5 years of historical data. So I'm going to load 20 years of AMD by just typing it in, 20 years. You notice that as I type 20 years, the command line pops up. It pops up automatically when you press a key. It's convenient. TradeStation is going to be responsive to your keyboard commands. And one of those commands is a historical data request. and the request is just 20 years. You hit enter, and TradeStation will load 20 years of historical data for AMD, and I can see the full chart now. But again, pressing the up arrow key increases the bar spacing, and I'm able to look at more detail on the chart. Since we are in the subject of navigation, you can also take your cursor here on the right side of the chart and click on the price scale and bring it down. Click, and you do that by clicking and dragging, by the way. So clicking and dragging here allows you to squeeze and expand the price scale. Once you have the chart in this mode, you can take the candles, grab the candles, and you can move them in any direction that you want as well. So this is like a background dragging, but instead of clicking on the background and moving it, you click on the candles and you move them around. Now, this is only possible once you've squeezed or expanded the chart. Otherwise, the chart is kind of attached to the top and bottom of the chart, and you won't be able to move it. Once you've moved everything around and you want to reset it to the way that it was before, bring your cursor towards the bottom, and you can see some overlay buttons right here at the bottom of the chart. One of the buttons here says reset, which is the last one. I'm clicking on it. It resets the scale to automatic, and then you are where you were at first. So, but if you want to move the chart around, just remember that you have to click on the price scale here, squeeze it or expand it a little bit, and then you can move the chart in any direction that you want, okay? Changing the symbol is also very simple. I used the command line just a moment ago to request more historical data. But if I wanted to change the symbol to, let's say, Apple, I just need to type it in and hit enter. AAPL, enter, and I have a chart of Apple. And it happens with any symbol you want to load up. If I want to load up a futures, let's say we are in the month of August. I'm going to load up September on the S&P 500 futures E-mini contracts. I'm going to do ESU23, hit enter. Now I'm looking at a futures contract on the S&P E-mini. So do that, use the command line to change the symbol to request historical data. And you can also use the command line to change the time frame. So if I want to look at, let's say I want to look at a 60-minute chart of the S&P futures, which I have on the screen, I'm going to type in 60 space MIN. Yeah, the command is MIN. It's an abbreviation for minute. 60 is the interval that I'm using. And as soon as I type 60 space MIN, hit enter, I'm looking at a 60-minute chart of the S&P E-mini futures. So very nice. Make sure that you practice that. There are hundreds of different commands you can use that in the command line. In fact, I do a class dedicated to commands and macros and all the different things you can do on TradeStation to make your use of the platform much quicker. But for now, we're just going to concentrate on changing the symbol, changing the time frame, and changing the amount of historical data, which I showed you an example of each. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about drawing tools and studies, which are things that you're going to be using on a daily basis in charting. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to mute once in a while just to make sure that I don't cough on everybody's ears, okay? Let's see, I'm getting a question here from John. Can you just use daytime hours? For futures, John, if you're referring to futures, in this case, yes, I loaded a 60-minute chart, but I'm using the Globex or the 24-hour session, or almost 24-hour session based on the start time and the end times of the sessions. But if you wanted to concentrate on the day session, I believe we have a variation of the symbol, which is ESU23.D. Just add a .D at the very end, that intake, ESU23.D. Yep, that works. So this is a symbol that we make available, which pretty much, removes the overnight and just gives you what's happening during the day. If you want to know the specific times that this day symbol is plotting, double click on any candle, go into the properties, and this is how you access the session. So if I click on the ellipsis here for the session, it does tell me that it's going from 8:30 to 3:15. Now this is Central Time. It says it right here, note session times are based on, session times are based on exchange time. So what you see here, the 8:30, it's Central because the future trades in Chicago. So 8:30 Central will be 9:30 Eastern. So this pretty much, mimics the stock market day session, which is 9:30 to 4:15, okay? So that's if you want to see the details of the session that's being utilized. But for those that are futures traders, just add a .d at the very end of the symbol, and that should give you a truncated view of the session and just concentrating on the day activity. Earl is asking, what is the setting to enable scrolling the right price axis? Yeah, to scroll here, there's no setting to turn on. All you need to do is bring your cursor over here to the price, click, hold your mouse button. You have to hold the mouse button and then just push it down or up. That's what allows you to move the scale here, the clicking and dragging. All right. Oh, I see, John. Hope you feel better, but it's a terrible thing, but we're good. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's go and reset the scale here one more time. We did say that we wanted to talk about drawing tools and studies. One of the things that I wanted to show you is using drawing tools to keep track of prices. We see right here that from yesterday's session to today, we had a huge gap here on the S&P E-mini. Okay. Let me open up my chart a little bit more so we can see more of it. So, yeah. So we did strip the S&P E-mini of all the overnight activity. So that's the reason why we see this huge gap. If we go back to the one that does not have the day session, we still see the little gap. There was a gap from the close of yesterday to the open of today's session, but it's not as significant as the one we saw earlier. But here, let's say, for example, that we're monitoring the prices and we are expecting, the S&P E-mini to close the gap. Maybe we want to monitor a price. We don't want to be glued to the screen. So I'm going to monitor this level right here, 45.90. The price of the S&P E-mini is 45.53 at the moment. But if we are expecting, the S&P E-mini to close the gap, I'm going to monitor 45.90 or even 4600 and set up an alert so that my charting will let me know if it has closed the gap. So I'm going to go to the drawing menu, click on horizontal line. I'm going to click on the background and hold my mouse button to bring down my horizontal line somewhere close to 45.90. Now, sometimes, depending on the scale, it's going to be a little bit challenging to do it exactly at 45.90.00. You can see that right now, my horizontal line is being dropped at 45.90.02. You can see the price right here on the right-hand side. But, that's okay. What I can do is I can double-click on the line, go to the Data tab, and enter the price right here. So don't stress about, oh, I can't drop the line exactly at the price that I want, because once you drop it, you can double click on it and go here to data and enter the exact price that you want the line to show on. While we're here in the double clicking on the line, when you double click on the line, it gets you to the customized horizontal line. The color of my line is probably different than yours. And what I've done is I've changed the style, the color, the thickness, and the labels of that line. I believe that by default, the label shows left justified, but I have mine right justified. So it's right here on the right-hand side. I changed the font style. But one of the things that I wanted to show you here is that you have access to the alerts. So I can say, enable alert, breakout, intra, interbar. I like to choose intra, interbar because it not only monitors the alert on a touch. So intra is trying to trigger an alert when the bar touches the line, but I also want to be alerted if there's an inter type of behavior where there's not a touch, but there's a jump over. So if all of a sudden, the S&P closes down here, but on the next session, we have a gap up and it doesn't touch the line, we're still going to get alerted because we have that inter bar variation. Over here, we can choose how we want to be alerted. If it's a continuous, once per bar, if you want to get a sound, a pop-up window, you can just choose your own alert preferences. But by turning this on, my line is hot. It's set for an alert. As soon as the S&P touches it or jumps it, I'm going to be alerted, which allows me to then go onto a separate workspace. Notice that I just clicked on the plus right here at the bottom, do some other analysis, some other studies or technical studies, and still be alerted if the S&P E-mini touches that line. Christopher's asking, does the setup for each chart stay with that chart as you change time frames? It does, as long as you use the same chart. Let's go back here to the chart that we were setting up. This is a 60-minute chart. If I were to turn this into a 30-minute chart, yes, you can see the line remains there. If I go to a 1-minute chart, it may seem like the line disappeared. As you add more detail into the chart, our 4590 level, it's off the scale. You see right here, the top is 4580, 4590 would be here. So if I squeeze the chart more, I see it right there. So if it gets to a point that you go to a smaller time frame and you don't see your line, make sure that you add more history so that you can see the level show up on your chart. But yes, as long as you continue to use the same chart, any level that you draw and any alert that you set up will continue to be active, and it'll alert you if it needs to. So let me go back to a 60-minute. There we go. Okay, Earl says right click and hold does not enable me to scroll the right. Okay, it's not a right click, Earl, it's a left click. Make sure that you're left clicking on the price scale to, squeeze up or squeeze down. Not a squeeze up or squeeze down to, to expand or contract, okay? Anthony's asking, can you set a multi-chart layout to share drawings? That's a good question, Anthony. And what happens is that Tradestation, all the drawings you do on a Tradestation chart are exclusive to that chart. So they're not shared across the same symbol chart. For example, here I have the S&P E-mini futures. If I go to this new workspace that I opened up and I create a new chart on the same symbol, and let me turn this into a 60-minute chart like the one before, you can see that my 4590 level is not drawn on this one. So they're not shared, and there's no way for me to transfer drawings from one chart to the other. However, let me show you what I would do. So if you have a chart where you've done your analysis, you've done your levels, maybe you're looking at support and resistance, maybe a profit target or a stop loss that you're setting up on your orders, whatever level you've drawn on the chart, it may be multiple lines. What you can do is right click on the chart, copy the window, and I'm going to go here to this new workspace, right click and paste the window. So where's paste window here? Here it is, paste window. So what that does, it creates a duplicate of that chart, and it provides me the same symbol with all the drawings that you've made, and it creates a duplicate of that. And right here, then I can change this to maybe a different time frame. So if you want to track, your drawing tools at different time frames, I would recommend you create copies of the window, and that's a way to transfer, drawings from one chart to the next. Yes, and Christopher, to your point, or to your question, can you set up different time frames for the same chart? A sort of copy and paste, definitely, especially if you have drawing tools. If you don't have any drawings, you're better off just going to apps and clicking on chart analysis. It's easier. But if you've already done, studies and levels and drawings and vertical lines and trend lines, then yeah, copy the window and paste it into a different workspace. Excellent. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about studies a little bit. Let me go and delete this, go back to the same workspace that I was on. I'm going to go to the studies. Here's where you find all the studies that are built into Tradestation. I'm going to go here to add studies. Tradestation, pretty much has everything that is popular out there in the technical analysis world. So look at all the different categories we have here. The bulk of technical analysis is going to be an indicator. So if you're looking for MACD, ADX, Bollinger Bands, stochastics, they're all going to be here in this indicators. We have some specialized analysis techniques that are called show me's, paint bars, activity bars, and probability maps that you're welcome to explore. A lot of these, when you go to, for example, paint bar and you look at day of week, a lot of these analysis techniques have a definition button. So we've documented and helped what these analysis techniques do. So make sure that you read on definition if you'd like to get a synopsis or a description of what the indicator is doing and how it's calculated. So I'm going to go to indicator and choose something that we are all familiar with. Let's talk about a moving average 2-line. So moving average 2 lines, notice that you have all sorts of different types of moving averages, exponentials, adaptive, whatever you can find in a technical analysis world, you can pretty much find it in Tradestation. And one thing that I want to point out here, if you don't find a particular idea on Tradestation, it must certainly can be created using easy language. So we have this proprietary programming language that allows you to build indicators and strategies from scratch. And so you're not only limited to what comes in the box, you can pretty much create your own as well. So moving average 2 lines, I'm going to click OK. And I have my 2 moving averages. I didn't have to supply a parameter. By the way, it also added a paint bar. If you if you notice, it added a yellow paint bar. The yellow paint bar, by the way, if you're asking why are my candles yellow, it's because we added day of the week. If you can see it right here on the status line, and in parentheses, it says Monday. So what it does, every Monday, it's painted in yellow. Today is Wednesday. We can see Tuesday right here, and we see the candlesticks for Monday. So sometimes it does allow you to color bars and identify the beginning of the week if that's something you want to do. So for the moving averages, I did say that I didn't supply parameters because studies in Tradestation, they come with default parameters, and you can change those, of course. So let's say, for example, that in my moving average analysis, I want to compare a 30 period against a 60 period. All I need to do is double click on the moving averages. One thing to note in double clicking, because I do use double clicking a lot on my Tradestation because I think it's a useful shortcut. But sometimes if you miss the line, you may double click in this area and it takes you to customize window. And then you sit there and realize, well, why is it not allowing me to, modify my indicator? It's just because you double clicked, you missed the double click. So you have to maybe cancel out and then try to double click again, make sure that you're right on the lines of the moving average. And then it takes you to the customize indicator. Notice the difference, right? So if you double click and it takes you somewhere else, it's probably because you missed the item that you were double clicking on and it recognized it as a different one. So just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that because I use double clicking a lot. If you want to access these menus through the toolbar, that's also possible. So if I go to studies and I click on edit studies, I see my moving averages. I click on customize and it takes me to the same dialog. So if you want to go the long way and use the toolbar, up to you. But I rather use double clicking. Double clicking here takes me to the customize indicator. A long-winded explanation for something trivial, but I think those extra clicks that you have to go through do add up. And when you want to do something quickly, it's better just to use the shortcut. So in here, I'm going to go to the inputs tab, inputs, and every study in Tradestation will have an inputs tab where you can modify the parameters. So make sure that you go there and see all the different things you can modify about the study, because in a setting like the moving average, notice that we also allow you to change the price that is being used for the calculation. Now that's very, very interesting because a lot of platforms only allow you to change the parameter, like the fast length and the slow length. Tradestation sometimes gives you the ability to change the value that's being averaged. In this case, we're averaging the closing prices, But what if you wanted to average the highs or the lows? Or if you wanted to average a mathematical formula, maybe you want to do the midpoint of the bar. So you add the high plus the low, you divide it by 2. The possibilities here are endless. And we give you these inputs so that you can interact with the study and maybe find other variations that you probably have thought about. And maybe the software doesn't allow you to change those settings. So in here, I'm just going to leave it on close. I just wanted to tell you that you have other parameters that you can modify and change all aspects of the study. Here, I'm going to change the fast to 30 and the slow to 60. And when I click OK, then you can see how the moving averages change to a 30 and a 60. They are smoother. I'm not changing, the default of the moving average. If I have the moving averages on another chart, they'll stay unchanged. This is very specific to this particular moving average on this chart. All right. Earl, I'm not sure. Let me ask you, Earl. I know that it's not working, and maybe a technical problem, Earl, and you may need the help of technical support. But are you using 9.5 or trades or the older version of Tradestation? Because that could be it. That would not be the way to do it on 9.5. So let me know if your Tradestation is 9.5 or is it the new version? Okay. Let's go here. And one more thing. I wanted to tell you something about the technical analysis and how you can track the signals of these technical analysis. When I put in a technical study like moving averages, what I'm looking for is for the lines to cross. That's the signal for the moving average. And that would be the reason why you would put moving averages on the chart, right? You're looking for those crossovers. You can see that for the S&P E-mini, the 30 and the 60 are kind of separating at the moment. So I don't expect a crossover soon. But if I wanted to know, if moving averages, I'm just going to set an example here. If moving averages were my thing, and I base a lot of my trading decisions on moving averages, whatever they are, exponential, simple, 21, 8, I'm using 30 and 60 as an example. But if you base your decisions on moving averages, wouldn't it be great for Tradestation or a software in general to tell you which symbols are crossing right now, rather than you selecting the symbols beforehand and setting a watch list and just waiting for something to cross? What about letting the software identify those securities that are crossing right now? That would be cool, right? So I'm going to come over here to this new workspace, and I'm going to open up one of my favorite scanning tools in Tradestation, which is Radar Screen. Right here, everyone should have Radar Screen in their apps menu. Radar Screen is a scanning tool, and it does a lot of great things. Let me go ahead and resize it so that it fills the whole screen here. You can see that it comes up empty, but I'm going to fill it with a prepackaged list of symbols. I'm going to go to Data, add a symbol list, and I'm going to add the NASDAQ 100. So this is 100 symbols. Well, these are all the components of the NASDAQ 100 index. You can see the label up here. I can remove that. $NDX, the very first symbol that shows up here, is the symbol for the index itself. I'm going to remove it and just concentrate on the stocks that make up the NASDAQ 100. In here, I'm going to resize this radar screen because I want to have a chart here on the right-hand side. Apps, chart analysis. I put it here on the right-hand side, resize it. I'm going to do something. I'm going to link the chart to my radar screen, and you're going to see why. These little buttons on my title bar, I'm going to click on the S to turn it green, and then I'm going to come here to the radar screen and turn my S green here on this side. This links the two windows together. Notice the symbol on the chart is the NASDAQ 100, but if I want to take a look at Amazon, I just click on Amazon here on the left, and now Amazon gets loaded here on my chart. That's the beauty of linking. It saves you a lot of work. I'm going to go here and change the time frame to daily. And I'm going to, excuse me, didn't give me a chance to mute this time. But I'm going to go to studies, add studies. I'm going to add the same moving average to line study. Now I am adding this study to a daily chart. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but we have an interval column right here in radar screen that says 5 minute all the way down. That's the default time frame for radar screen. But if I want my moving averages to be on a daily chart, I have to change that time frame here. So I'm going to select all the symbols. You do it on the symbol level. And you select all symbols by just clicking on the symbol column header. And I'm going to go to the time frame and change these to daily as well. So now we're matching. What I haven't done, though, is added the moving average here on this side. So let me go ahead and remove a few columns here that I don't need. For example, I don't need the net change. I like to look at percent change, but bid, ask, high, and low are values that I don't need for my analysis at this time. So I'm going to click and drag through these column headers and press the delete key. And you can see that I can clean my radar screen from any columns that I don't need. I can add columns to it as well by just clicking on the plus here. Okay. Yeah, I see your problem, Earl. I'm not really sure what's happening. Why clicking on the prices here doesn't change your chart. You may have to talk to our tech support so they can troubleshoot your platform. Vincent is asking about the radar screen. Is there a way to see the current top 20 movers up and down? I have a radar screen for S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow, but how do I include the whole market? Yes, there is a way to do that, and I'll show it to you in just a moment, Vincent. In here, I'm doing a scan on the NASDAQ 100, which Vincent knows how to add to his radar screen. If you're looking for pre-selected lists on other criteria like the top 20 movers, I'll show you how you can set that up. In here, I'm going to go to the moving averages line. I'm going to add the same study that I have here in charting. I'm going to add it here to my radar screen, and I'm going to click OK. This calculates the two lines, the cyan and the magenta line, for 100 symbols at the same time. Now, this is something really cool because now we're adding moving averages to 100 symbols. So theoretically, every row, starting with Apple right here at the very top, every row, Apple, Airbnb, Adobe, all these rows are set up as charts. So with radar screen, I was able to create 100 individual chart analysis windows, apply the moving average to lines, and not have to have individual charts for each one of those. By having these two windows linked, I can click on any of these symbols and look at how the moving averages are looking for that symbol. I don't have to maintain 100 individual chart analysis windows. Radar screen is a replacement for that. Not only that, but let me show you exactly what I mean by scanning. I'm going to right click on the header for the moving average, and I'm going to go to studies and edit the moving average for all symbols. And in the alert tab, and I'm going to enable the alert. I want the alert to be continuous, but I don't want to get pop-up messages or sounds going off because I'm going to be looking at the radar screen. I want to use it as a ranking mechanism more than anything. So I don't need sounds or pop-up messages. I just need it to tell me which ones are alerting right now. So no messaging. When I click OK, and you can see that on the column, a few things happen. I see a little orange type of corner letting me know that there's an alert enabled. And every so often, I see a red marker. The red marker is the one that is triggering the alert right now. So I can click on AMD, for example, and is that AMD on a daily time frame? Oh, I see what the problem is. And this may happen to you too, because I clicked on AMD, my chart updated, and I was looking over here and I say, well, these two moving averages are not crossing. So why is this giving me an alert? I realized my error. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the column that I added is an exponential two-line moving average. Yes, I can replace the one here on my chart. Let's go ahead and do that. Doesn't matter which one you use, radar screen will just follow along. I'm going to add studies, and instead of using the two-line simple moving average, this is the one that I used, moving average exponential, 2 lines. And here we go. For AMD, it may be not such a clean crossover because we had a crossover. Yes, we have a crossover on the current bar, but we had a crossover, a few days ago. Then we had another crossover. So we've had, crossovers back to back because AMD is kind of going sideways. It's kind of establishing, a support and resistance level here very nicely, but it's kind of consolidating, so the moving averages are not very clear. So even though they're crossing right now, I don't know, additional analysis may be required on the chart to see if it's a good signal or not. Here's another one, CTSH. I click it and notice that, yeah, for a few weeks we were in an uptrend. All of a sudden, my two moving averages are crossing. It's a real-time cross. One of the nice things about radar screen is that I can do dynamic filtering. So right here at the top, notice the filter. I can select my moving average column and set alert to true. And very quickly, I'm able to filter my radar screen and only show the symbols that are crossing right now on the exponential two-line moving averages. There's a total of 6. So out of the 100, 6 are giving me a real-time alert. Warner, again, we have that same type of behavior like AMD, several, crossovers back to back. T-Mobile is giving us a crossover, a little bit more clear in sense of not getting back-to-back crossovers. But, in a couple minutes, I was able to put a list of symbols, apply a technical analysis, and be able to let Tradestation tell me which ones are crossing right now and which ones may present a trading opportunity. Now, to Vincent's question about how do I do a scan on the top movers? What you do right here instead of radar screen, if you don't want to start with a pre-packaged list of symbols, I would right-click where it says page 1, right-click, and you would add a new page, hot lists. So that radar screen starts off with a dedicated list of symbols based on the activity. These are the percent gainers. So yeah, these are the top gainers from the close of yesterday, and you get the top 25. If you want to increase the number of gainers here, you can do the results and go up to 100. But if I do that, if I start with this hot list, I can do the same thing that I did on my radar screen. I can remove some of these columns, maybe resize some of these too if I want to make it a little bit tighter. We have a stock here that is 187% higher than the close of yesterday. Wave Dancer, I'm not sure what that company does, but it's interesting that it has that significant price change, right? So let's sort again. The nice thing is that you can sort by any of these columns again. So these are the top movers, the top 100 movers. But if you also want to do additional ranking and see out of these 100s, which ones are the ones that are most traded, I can double click on volume, double click again, and notice that Wave Dancer is not only the one that has changed the most, but is also out of the 100, the one that is traded the most, with 77 million shares traded so far. The last traded price is 77 cents, so it's a very inexpensive stock. What does it do? The first time that I hear about Wave Dancer, so I'm not really sure, but is it something that I would want to trade? I'm not sure, maybe click on the symbol. I'm already, linked here on my chart. Notice where the price was a few days ago. All of a sudden, we get a big jump here, and that's why is the top mover. But what happened to it? Those are things that I probably want to research, and I wouldn't have been aware of this symbol if it hadn't been for the hot list and radar screen combination. Now let me go here and add the same technical study that we were looking at. So if you still want to monitor your moving averages, I'm going to right click again, edit the moving average for all symbols and enable alert. I'm going to make sure that it's continuous, no pop-up message or sounds. And then I can use the filter here at the top one more time. So in this example, out of the 100 top movers, there's 2 that are crossing moving averages right now. Oh, this is on the 5-minute. Let me change the time frame. So I'm going to select the symbol column, change it to daily. This will update in a few seconds. Okay, notice how it changes the symbols. Wave dancer, of course, we have a big crossover on that. And notice that we have additional symbols. You can notice that this is a dynamic scanning window where as new symbols meet the criteria, they'll be added to my list. You can see how my list gets getting bigger and bigger. And I think it was because my moving averages were still calculating in the background when I did the switch to daily. But here, out of the 100, we have 13 that are giving me a crossover on those moving averages if I wanted to take a look at them. Okay, so that's my presentation on scanning. I think scanning on radar screen is simple, straightforward, and you're going to enjoy it a lot. Let me see some of the questions here. Anthony has it's off topic, going back a bit. Are there any good educational videos from Tradestation Easy Language? I'd like to create CDV indicator. Okay, so to your second question, how many studies can you apply to radar screen? You can apply as many studies as you need to. The limitation is going to be on the number of symbols. When you are using technical studies that are calculating on historical data, you can only have up to 1,000 symbols. That's a symbol limitation, but columns or technical studies, you can have as many as you need to. Education on easy language, any education. Let me show you where you can find this. You can go to apps and go to Video Station right here. Everybody should have an app here called Video Station. This opens up to a web browser with different videos that we've done, presentations that we've done recently. Let me go ahead and see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. You can see that the very top menu is categorized. You are pretty much taken to recent uploads. And you can see that this is recently updated with the most recent presentations. But here at the top, we have Masterclass dropdown that takes you to an easy language category, leveraging easy language. I would go there, and we have a collection of the studies or videos that talk through different easy language functionality. And not only easy language, but any topic you'd like to learn about. So if you go to Masterclass and you want to learn about technical analysis or strategy, if you want to learn about radar screen, just go to platform and go to scanning tools here, and it'll take you to the scanning tool presentation that we've done in the past. Great. Yeah, all these videos that are here in this Video Station app are actually feeding from YouTube. So any YouTube video that we have available is also available here. All right. Let's go here to, and by the way, Anthony, for your question, the symbols that you're talking about, the tick, the VIX, we have symbols like that. All you need to do is maybe search for them. But let me show you what we can do. So most indexes in Tradestation will start with a dollar sign. So dollar sign VOLD. Let me just make sure that I have this turned off. All right, notice that you have that there. So just add a dollar sign ADD, dollar sign TICK, dollar sign V, dollar sign VIX. VIX is going to be VIX.X, so dollar sign VIX.X. So those will be the symbols you're looking for. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and take a look at trading functionality. Let's go over here and open up a workspace, and let's take a look at Matrix. All right, here's the Matrix. I'm going to show you some trading functionality. I'm going to pull up a stock just so that we can simplify the view. When you pull up the Matrix, you get a lot of information about what's happening in the market. First of all, you get the last traded price here. Apple is trading at 193. And you also get level 2. So you see all the different orders that are waiting to get filled on the bid and ask side. So whatever you see on the blue is orders or shares that are being bid for at each one of these prices. And on the red, you see orders or shares that are being offered for sale. Called level 2, market depth, a lot of times is being used as a market sentiment type of indicator, where you can take a look at where the majority of the orders are sitting. For something as liquid as Apple, you know, these are pretty much balanced when it comes to buying and selling. But a lot of times you're gonna see a group of orders sitting at a particular level because it's an important price level, maybe because it's support and resistance, and a lot of traders are setting orders at those levels. So that's what you see in the blue and the red. So the blue is your buy column, so that's where you would click on to buy, and the red is your sell column. Let me go ahead and reduce the scale here, because Apple, it's trading at 193, which is a little bit high, but I can use this axis increment right here. Notice that the increment is set to 1 penny. I can set it to 10 cents if I want the prices to jump every 10 cents rather than 1 penny. And that, of course, reduces, you know, the levels here. I like sometimes to do that with prices that are high so that it condenses the view in my radar screen. Let's say, for example, that we want to buy Apple when it drops to 193. Right now, it's 193.13. So we're talking about maybe 13 cents lower. I want to buy it at 193. I want to sell it at 194. So we're talking just a $1 change, but I want to set a 50-cent stop. So we're talking about an all-inclusive trade where we have entry and we have exits attached to them, right? So what I do is I can use the matrix to do that. Here, the quantity, I'm going to set it to an even 100 for 100 shares. And I'm going to use this checkbox that says attach OSO. In the attach OSO, I'm able to add exits to my entry. In this particular example, I'm just going to use a simple bracket with one limit and one stop. I'm going to use the ellipsis here on the right-hand side to choose the distance. So my limit is going to be $1 away. We talked about that. And my stop is going to be 50 cents away from my entry. I did say my entry was going to be 193. So once I set my offsets, I click OK. And all I need to do is join the buyers right here at 193. And with one click, I'm able to submit that order at 193. You can see the blue box, that's my entry order. And it also has these, we call them queued orders, one at 194 and the other at 192.50, monitoring my profit target and my stop loss. So in any particular trade, if you've already planned what your entry level is going to be, and if you're already planned what profit target you're shooting for and what your risk is going to be on the stop side, and look at that, risk reward relationship, and you have it all planned out, you can use the matrix as a way to submit that trade and let it be, because you already planned it out. You've already accepted your profits. You already accepted your losses. So you have it all in there and you just let it be, and you can go on to something else. And Tradestation will monitor your trade exactly as you submitted it. So you have your entry at 193 with your target at 194 and your stop at 192.50. I can even shut down my Tradestation platform right now, and those orders will be automatically, they are already on the Tradestation execution server. So we're just getting a visual of where those orders are, but Tradestation is already monitoring those levels for you, okay? So this is a great feature. I want everybody to use the simulator to practice order entry on the matrix, because a lot of times, we're more comfortable with a trade setup like the one here at the top, where we have the trade bar, which is something that you can use as well as you're trading. But the matrix is a type of window that gives you a little bit more information as to, which prices are being traded the most. So this graph that you see here on the right-hand side, I just got filled at 193. You saw that? My, darker orders now are red because those were selling transactions. But you can see I didn't have to do anything, and my order is, responding to current market activity. So that's interesting. And I was saying that you can see the prices that were traded the most. You can see VWAP, the little V right here next to 193.80. By the way, that's not the VWAP because I have my increments set to 10. So if I set them back to 01, you can see real-time P&L right here. I'm going to scroll up. So VWAP is right here at 183.77. That's where my target is right here at 194. It's a $100 profit, expected profit, if it reaches that level. And then I have my stop right here at $50, 182.50, if it reaches that level. All right. Okay, so I have plenty of video presentations that talk about all the different functionality on matrix and order entry. So make sure that you visit those and learn, what the functionality is. Let me take a look at a few questions here to make sure that I'm addressing them as we go along. Is it similar for options trades? Is asking Christopher. For sure. If you want to, use the matrix for options, that's something you can do as well. Let's pull up a call or a put in here to show you exactly what we can do. Let me go to data. Actually, settings, simple. So here in Apple, I can go to lookup. Go to the options tab. Let's say that I put in the underline for Apple. This is stock options. I go to lookup. It gives me, 3 strikes and 3 expirations right here at the bottom. Let's suppose that I'm trading an expiration of August 11th, and I want to trade maybe a call with a strike of 190. So here's the 190 call expiring August 11th. I'm going to click OK and OK. And that gets loaded right here inside my matrix. You can see the symbol up here. There is some market depth similar to the stock, but the same setup that I created for Apple, I can create it here for this particular call where I have an entry and I have a target and I have a stop. The nice thing about, Tradestation also is that you can set activation rules based on the underlying. So if you're trading options, in this particular case, the call with a strike price of 190, and you want to set activations based on the underlying, you can do that as well. In my video presentations, there's one that talks about activation rules. So I encourage everyone, to use Tradestation. And maybe if you go to platform and tools and you go to trading tools, there's a video here called Advanced Order Entry Features, where I go into activation rules based on price and based on time. Anthony is asking, can you do this on the chart opposed to matrix, like setting OCO orders? For sure. If I go over here to a chart, let me go here to this chart that I was looking. This is the S&P E-mini futures. On the chart, you would have to enable chart trading. There's a little button here called chart trading that I can click on. And you can see that it'll automatically open up a trade bar similar to the one that I have on the matrix. So I can very quickly submit a trade here for the S&P E-mini futures. And I can also attach a bracket just like I did with Apple. If you're interested in chart trading, again, let me go here to my Tradestation, platform and tools, trading tools. There is a video presentation here, right here, placing trades using chart trading that goes into more detail about how to use that functionality. All right, great. That's all the questions that I see here in the chat. So we're going to call it a session. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great, explaining some of these concepts to you. We do these getting started classes every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you join us. We rotate, all the different Tradestation platforms. So today was the Tradestation desktop. Check out the events calendar to see which platform we're going to focus on next Wednesday. But all the sessions are recorded and they're uploaded to the Tradestation YouTube channel. So make sure you take a look there if you're looking for any recent presentations. You can also, pull up Tradestation and go to recent uploads, since they will go in here as well. Last week we did a presentation on Option Station Pro, and that's already uploaded here in the recent uploads if you want to do that in, in Tradestation. All right, guys? Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope to see you in a future event right here at Tradestation. Goodbye, everyone. Great having you.